Hey everyone from DUELING Mixes. I just wanted to have a look at what I mean by transient control in the mix. I'm going to be really flying through this one. So let's start by listening to a bit of this mix that I did of Porcupine's Sleep by the Fire, Bloom and Water. And I actually have all my transient control stuff turned off, so you can hear what this sounds like if you just like throw it up and go, even with the default settings on this limiter. So let's have a listen.
We leave our homes to come back stronger, and no one knows if they can take it any longer. Loaded heart, soft in mind, and every sinner has a past, and every soul is put to rest.
So it's not bad, the balances are okay, but most notably what I hear is that there's a little pumping sometimes, especially in the loudest section, and sometimes the kicks come and go, things stepping on each other, and it's kind of cloudy overall. So before we do anything else, let's just go ahead and turn all this stuff back on that I've been using for my control, and we'll listen to that section one more time. There will be time codes in the description if you'd like to A/B.
We leave our homes to come back stronger, and no one knows if they can take it any longer. Loaded heart, soft in mind, and every sinner has a past, and every soul is put to rest.
Alright, my computer's going to start yelling at me unless I let it cool down. So we'll turn all these things off for a minute. Okay. So what I hear mostly is that things aren't as cloudy, nothing pumps, and I can always hear the drums, the vocals, the guitars, all that stuff, and nothing seems to be stepping on each other, even though it's the same loudness, if not louder, because there's less crap happening in the master limiter. And the secret to that really is there's no special balance stuff happening, even though the balances are I think pretty good. I didn't change levels, I haven't changed EQs. What I've done is just made sure that the top end peak stuff isn't killing processes down the line. So what I mean by that, I'm trying to make sure my computer's cooled down enough to keep going. What I mean by that is, for instance, if we start here looking at the kick, if we just look at the kick in this section, with my clipper on, we're getting maybe -4. If we turn it off, it's about a dB higher. It doesn't sound different. Now that's a real 1% difference, but it's there. A more exaggerated one is if we look at the toms just as they are. I'm gonna turn this limiter off for this. If we look at the toms just how they are in this bridge section, watch this meter. So we're over 0 for that. And there's a little bit of that transient peakiness. It's there. It's part of the character of the drum, but it's way out there. And if I ran the mix this way, I'd be on top of the vocal. So we'll turn on KClip. Now we're at -8. I don't know about you, but I don't think that sounds any different. So that's the point here, is to knock transients back, and in some ways without using limiters. These are literally just soft clippers. They have a clipping function and a soft clipping function that's turned up for most of these. Just knocking back the transients or knocking back the peaks that you don't really need for the sound to keep things under control. For instance, on the bass here, if I turn this, well, bypass it, this last chorus, whenever the high end's up, we're getting to like to -6 on here. Whenever I bring this in, I don't think it sounds different, but we're pegged at -12. So I have all that headroom to play with. And that's really what it boils down to, is just keeping those transients and those peaks under control. Same thing applies for the guitars. Same thing applies for the vocals. The bridge vocal's not even getting anything happening on this limiter, but whenever the doubles come up, there's a little bit of constructive interference between the two, and this actually ends up working.
You've made me a living target. You've done so much for me.
The same part without the limiter.
You've made me a living target. You've done so much for me. On until I couldn't breathe. You've made me a living target.
It really doesn't sound different, and that's the point. We're not trying to change the sound here. We're not trying to peg levels way down or anything like that. We're just trying to control the top end peaks, because that way, like we would into this limiter or those bus compressors on the drums with the kick, snare, and toms earlier, all of this stuff runs into a bus compressor, a tape machine, and then eventually this limiter that I've turned off for the time being. And if those can work less hard to do the same thing, or if they have something more consistent going in, they will perform better, and you'll be able to get more control out of them. And that's the whole point here to these limiters and those clippers earlier. And that's all I mean by transient control, is just keeping these things in check before they go to other processors. So, I mean, the toms here, I gained 8 dB of headroom without changing the sound, except for controlling it better. If you listen to that part in the mix, we'll turn KClip off and listen to this.
We leave our homes to come back stronger.
And then with KClip.
We leave our homes to come back stronger. And no one knows.
You don't really hear the difference, except that you can hear the vocals better. And that's the whole point. So I hope that's cleared up that a little bit. It's not a very hard process to understand. It is a little harder to get right every time. In fact, I've had several mixes recently where I've actually killed the drums too hard, and then I couldn't hear the impact. So it's there. You get to where there's a fine line between not enough and too much. But that is the basics of transient control, is just keeping things in check before they go to bus process is, or before they get out to the master where they have to hit a limiter to make sure that nothing clips on the file or anything like that. That's really it. So I hope that's been helpful for someone. So I'll probably be making a couple more of these demos pretty soon. And until then, I will see you guys later. Thanks for sticking around.